Hey folks, sorry for the delayed start there. Google Hangouts was just being torturous. Wouldn't let me in for some reason. Every time I clicked on the Google Hangout, it was going, "Are you going to watch this?" I was like, I think I need to do a bit more than watch it, mate. I think I better be running the thing. I'm going to be in trouble. Can't just sit back and watch it." Kept on trying to get in, wouldn't let me in. Crazy stuff. Okay, but I'm in now. So we're late. Let's get this thing rolling. So tonight I'm going to be talking about narcissism and sexuality. I'm going to try, as far as is possible, to stay in this position I'm in right now because I have bought, for the purpose of doing this Google Hangout, a nice fancy new mic. But because I don't know what I'm doing, didn't buy a stand. So also didn't buy the thing that stops you from blowing air into the mic and making all weird popping and crackling sounds. I'm going to be really, really careful with this mic. Otherwise, I'm going to do your heads in and mine at the same time. So tonight we're going to be talking about narcissism and sexuality. I get questions about the sexual proclivity of narcissistic ex-boyfriends, ex-girlfriends, husbands and wives frequently. And one of the things that people commonly report is just something odd to do with sex. And either it will be hyperactivity, as in sex will be an extremely important factor in the relationship, or hypoactivity. There'll be almost nothing going on in between the sheets. And the third thing that is commonly reported is odd behavior, paraphilias, where people, the narcissist, gets obsessed with something strange sexually that is going on. So I'm going to start by reading you something that I thought was very interesting that should give us some insight into this rapidly and very incisively. I will read it out to you and then I'll give you the source afterwards. Okay. This is about uniqueness and intimacy predominantly, and about the sexuality of a cluster B narcissistic personality disorder having person secondarily. Uniqueness and intimacy are strong rivals. Intimacy implies a certain acquaintance of one's partner with privileged information. Yet, it is exactly such partially or wholly withheld information that buttresses one's sense of superiority, uniqueness, and mystery, which inevitably vanishes with disclosure and with intimacy. Intimacy is a problem that comes up quite frequently. I've noticed with the Spartan Life Coach project. And one of the things that I've taken saying to people is, look, there can't really be any love and any of the good stuff that you want without intimacy. And there can't really be any intimacy without vulnerability. In the world of the cluster B, vulnerability is unacceptable and becomes de facto verboten because their predominant drive is towards control. And to be vulnerable is to relinquish control and relinquish one's self-protection. As Gary Klein has pointed out, he thinks that we shouldn't really be calling it narcissistic personality disorder. He thinks it should be referred to as a narcissistic defense mechanism. Where you stand on that side of the argument doesn't really matter. The point is that it can also be understood as a defense mechanism or as an extremely complex and intricate matrix of defense mechanisms that surrounds and warps the personality. Back to this piece of writing, the author of which I haven't disclosed yet. Additionally, intimacy is a common and universal pursuit. It does not confer uniqueness on its seeker. When you get to know people intimately, they all seem unique to you. Personal idiosyncrasies surface with intimate acquaintance. Intimacy makes unique beings out of us all. It therefore negates the self-perceived uniqueness of the truly and exclusively unique, the narcissist. So this person goes a step further and says that the narcissist can't afford intimacy with you, not just because it means he's going to give up his ability to protect himself from being vulnerable and give up his control, but because it will actually take away his uniqueness. There is something socialist rather than capitalist, horizontal rather than vertical about intimacy, I guess, if you wanted to paraphrase Terence McKenna here, you could, which is that, you know, in the presence of the In the presence of the absence, you can't say that sentence, Richard. It doesn't make sense. But in the absence of boundaries, everything kind of takes on a wholeness and a oneness. While the narcissist doesn't want to be whole and one with everybody else. He wants to be something unique. He wants to be a tower above everybody else, special and perfect. Finally, the very process of getting intimate creates false sensations of uniqueness. Two people getting to intimately know each other are made unique to one another. These traits of intimacy negate the narcissist's notion of uniqueness. Intimacy may help distinguish us to our loved ones, but it also makes us common and indistinguishable to all others. Put crassly, if everyone is distinct, then no one is unique. Widespread acts or behaviors are anathema to uniqueness. Intimacy eliminates information asymmetries and obviates superiority and demystifies. You probably figured out that the author of this is Sam Vaknin. It's pretty verbose. Intimacy eliminates information asymmetries. So when you offer up information, if you imagine you're two warring nations and you represent the spy network between the two warring nations, the more information that is offered up between the warring nations through the spy network, then the less asymmetry there is, the less tactical advantage there is, the less, from the point of view of military strategy, you are no longer the predator and the other person is no longer the prey, because they have just as much stuff on you as you have on them. They know as much about your vulnerable targets and your weapons and your capabilities as you know about them. The reason I didn't want to say Sam Vaknin at the beginning is because some people just don't give Sam a chance, but the information really is very, very good. It's very, very pure. It gets to the point. The narcissist does his damnedest to avoid intimacy. He constantly lies about every aspect of his life, his self, his history, his vocations and avocations, and his emotions. This false data guarantees his informative lead, his asymmetry, or advantage in his relationships. It fosters disintimization. I don't know whether it's intimization or intimization. Disintimization. His grasp of English is a lot better than mine, man. It casts a pall of cover-up, separateness, mystery over the narcissist's affairs. The narcissist lies even in therapy. He obscures the truth by using psychobabble or professional lingo. It makes him feel that he belongs, that he is a Renaissance man. By demonstrating his control of several professional jargons, he almost proves to himself that he is superhuman. In therapy, this has the effect of objectifying and emotional detachment. The narcissist behavior is experienced by his mate as frustrating and growth cramping. To live with him is akin to living with an emotionally absent non-entity or with an alien, a form of artificial intelligence. The partners of the narcissist often complain of overwhelming feelings of imprisonment and punishment. Final point. Really key point here if you want to understand your relationship with a narcissistic personality type. This is a big one. The psychological source of this kind of behavior could well involve transference. Most narcissists fall prey to unresolved conflicts with their primary objects. That'd be their parents or their primary caregivers. Especially with the parent of the opposite sex, the development of the narcissist's intimacy skills is hindered at an early stage. Punishing and frustrating the partner or spouse is a way of getting back at the abusive parent, by proxy, if you like. It is a way of avoiding the narcissistic injury brought on by inevitable abandonment. The narcissist, it seems, is still the hurt child. His attitude serves a paramount need, not to be hurt again. The narcissist anticipates his abandonment, and by trying to avoid it, he precipitates it. Maybe he does so to demonstrate that, having been the cause of his own abandonment, he is in sole and absolute control of his own relationships. To be in control, this unconquerable drive is a direct reaction to having been abandoned, ignored, neglected, avoided, smothered, or abused at an early stage in life. Never again, vows the narcissist. If anyone will do the leaving, it will be me. This points to a large topic that we're not going to cover today. But that some people seem to be unclear about, which is that the narcissist and the narcissistic personality disorder is very much a response to trauma. And the narcissistic personality disorder in particular is a manifestation of the fight and fawn CPTSD trauma response taken to the nth degree. So when you listen to somebody like me and you find it useful, it could possibly be because you are getting useful stuff from me, but you're also getting it with a flavor of the poison that you got in the first place, because my trauma response is fight, fawn. And if I had a personality disorder, I would probably be leaning more towards narcissism than any of the other ones. Now, don't go crazy and start a witch hunt and start going, see, the demon admits it from his own mouth. He's one of them. Burn the witch. Having pronounced narcissistic traits, which maybe I do, maybe I don't. There are narcissistic traits there. I certainly have the fight fawn response that forms the basis of the narcissistic personality disorder, is not the same as having narcissistic personality disorder. The only similarity between a person with narcissism and somebody who has full-blown NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, is the word narcissism is applied to both. Okay, that's an exaggeration. That's obviously not true, but they are so different that you could almost say that. A person with pronounced narcissistic traits is on a different planet to somebody with full-blown narcissistic personality disorder. When full-blown narcissistic personality disorder is present, there is, in some ways, some research backs up what I'm about to say, and some of it does not at all. And some people might find this vaguely offensive, particularly narcissists. With full-blown narcissistic personality disorder, you could almost say there isn't really a human there that is left. So there's nobody to reason with. That's why therapy is pointless. That's why there's no hope. Somebody who has highly narcissistic traits, somebody who has a strong CPTSD trauma response of fight fawn, can be helped by therapy and will gladly go to therapy. So somebody like me quite happily goes to therapy, quite happily open up to the intimacy and the vulnerability that is required of the therapeutic scenario, where I would have to relinquish control to the therapist, and I have done it and would do it again if need be. So you could say, well, I'm a case in point. I have pronounced narcissistic traits, but I do not have full-blown NPD. It's a completely different thing. So what's the point that Sam has made so well here? The root of the problem that you have with your Sam says he all the time. And most of the research indicates that classic narcissism manifests more in men than in women, and I think that's why he uses the word he a lot. But I know of many cases of women where this would apply just as equally well. If you're watching this and you've had a problem with a man or a woman, and you think that they had either pronounced narcissistic traits or full-blown NPD or a cluster B personality disorder, the key thing that caused that put that problem there, is their relationship with their primary object or parent or caregiver, the person who looked after them in their early years of life, where their first, the child's first experience of building intimacy and forming bonds with another human being will be with the parents. And what comes with that, as Freud pointed out, and everybody recoils from with such horror and distaste, is that because of that, the first libidinous or sort of, life drive, I'm going to use the word sexual here, but it's not the meaning of the word as it is usually applied, is going to be to the parents, usually predominantly towards the opposite gender parent. Even if that individual grows up gay, the still the most significant parent in terms of the template for their sexual identity and their sexual personality will still be the opposite gender parent. And there's a wound there. There's a problem there. Either the parent was completely smothering and completely over the top, or they ignored them, or they abused them and objectified them in some other way. The person with that trauma, with that wound, be they narcissist, borderline, psychopath, histrionic, or anything else, then spends the rest of their life neurotically and unconsciously punishing mummy or punishing daddy or punishing the caregiver for that abuse through their multiple partners in life. So when you've had the experience of arguing with a narcissist and feeling like they're arguing with somebody that isn't there, that's almost literally true. They'll be arguing with or raging again. They're not arguing with anybody. What am I saying? They'll be punishing the parent that's causing that pain. Even if their relationship at the surface level in the present moment, you could be talking about a 45-year-old guy who gets on very well with a 70-year-old mother. There doesn't seem to be a problem there. But what's happening is the 3-year-old inside that 45-year-old guy is punishing his mother at the age at which she was abusive towards him. And these are unconscious drives, and they all get tucked away neatly behind the narcissistic shell, this rigid shell of denial and projection that forms the false self, that the narcissist's vulnerable feelings have to hide behind because he's terrified of intimacy and of his own vulnerability, that he hides behind for so long whilst projecting this false self that eventually he forgets his vulnerable feelings and he forgets how to feel. And all that is left of him is the shadow play, is the projection of a personality, of a false self, which is why we get the lying, the constant, never-ending lies, no matter what happens, even if, the person who's doing the lying is condemning themselves to a terrible fate as a direct result of their lies, and the entire community stands in front of them and says, please, please, please stop. Just this one time in your life, please tell the truth, or in a dramatic scenario, you will die a very old man in jail, alone, hated by everybody. Tell the truth once and be vulnerable and apologize. And they say no. They continue to lie, even though it hurts them. This is the less talked about element of cluster B and the narcissistic personality, which is that it is extremely self-destructive as well. And in the end, over a long enough timeline, the person who has true full-blown narcissistic personality disorder will hurt themselves. They will seek to punish themselves. These are all unconscious drives, and it all comes down to trauma in childhood. I'm going to have a little look at some of the questions, and then I'm going to go on to the next thing that I want to read out to you. And I'm going to move away from this microphone that I'm leaning down and into because it's making my shoulder hurt. Thank you for your patience whilst I moved myself and permitted the blood to flow back into my arm. I should check and make sure people can hear me. Okay, nobody said anything about the sound. That's great. So first question. I've got 2 questions here, and then I'm going to move into the next section that I want to talk to you about. Wasn't that Sam Vaknin article useful? Wasn't that a great piece? Don't you think you should stop hating on Sam for a minute and just listen to what the man has to say? Why am I so provocative? I don't know. Childish. It's just childish. I have no need to be like this. I should just do my job with humility and stop being naughty. Catherine says, I have a question about whether being raised by narcissists and cluster Bs permanently affects the victim or survivor's sexuality, or if that is something innate to the personality of the individual. You're asking the wrong man about stuff being innate to the personality of the individual. It's an idea that I vehemently oppose, that you're born with any innate personality traits. It's based on the present in the end of March 2016 to date, there has been no scientific evidence whatsoever that your genetics predispose you to have certain personality traits. As far as we know at this point, your DNA could not give a hoot about your personality traits. Your personality traits are purely could be purely environmental. I do, for the sake of argument, take a very rigid stance on this, literally for the sake of argument, because I think that some people have to. I'm not going to go into a lecture of the pitfalls of genetic determinism, but you know, it gets nasty pretty quickly. That's where racism comes from, the idea that all white people from the north of England, from Liverpool, where I'm from, are thieving, violent bastards who make people pregnant and then leave and don't pay child support. That's a racist idea. The idea that there's something in our gene pool, in our DNA, that would lend us to this sort of proclivity. One day they may prove me wrong. There may be some good genetic evidence that comes out with that. The idea that there are, you know, genetic markers for personality traits, but to date, there's no evidence that there's anything innate to the personality of the individual, and that anything doesn't just come from being taught it in the environment. Will it permanently affect your sexuality? Not necessarily. You might have no effect on your sexuality of being raised by cluster B parents. Sexuality for some cluster B parents just isn't on the table as a point of discussion. It's not in the house. So if it's not in the environment in which you were raised, it shouldn't affect you. For other cluster Bs who are narcissistic, who are borderline, who have histrionic tendencies, sex might be something that is talked about all the time. Boundaries may be broken, parent, child, you know, in all kinds of incestuous and not so helpful ways over time that will affect your sexuality. Or they could just make you excessively obsessed with sex. I'm going to move on to the next question, but thank you for that. That was a good one. Please also explain again the sexual attraction, this is from Jen, they have on us. Although I feel like I'm over him, I still can't have sex with anyone else. I don't feel anything if I have sex with someone else. It's like a workout in the gym, and that's it. Damn. Well, this got nasty really quick. Jeez, I've only been talking for half an hour. Hang on. Okay. So, yeah, people are going to be asking this question. What's the sexual hold? Where do I start? Let me read you something first. Let me read you the second piece, and then we'll break it down. We'll come back to your question, Jen. And the other questioner, I read your question. I'm coming back around. Stick with me. You guys know I meander a little bit, but it's in the meanderings that sometimes we find delicious little berries to nibble upon. Juicy ones, fruity ones. Question. This is the Sam Vaknin on his blog. Are narcissists mostly hyperactive or hypoactive sexually, and to what extent are they likely to be unfaithful in marriage? Broadly speaking, this is his answer. Broadly, I'm not doing impressions of Sam Vaknin because it's going to annoy people, and the only person who would enjoy that would be Sam. Broadly speaking, there are two types of narcissists, loosely corresponding to the two categories mentioned in the question: the somatic narcissist and the cerebral narcissist. The somatic narcissist derives supply from other people's reactions to his body, sexual conquests, bodybuilding, youthfulness, athletic prowess, competence in outdoor activities, or mere preening and titivating. Cerebral narcissists flaunt their intellect, their intelligence and knowledge to secure attention and adulation. Whether one becomes a somatic narcissist or a cerebral one depends on one's upbringing as a child. If the infant is taught that it can secure the parent's love only by being intellectually brilliant, it will become a cerebral narcissist. If it is conditioned to excel in sports or outdoor activities and to compete for sexual conquests as a prerequisite for being loved, it becomes somatic. Narcissists are misogynists. They hold women in contempt, they loathe and fear them. Can I just say that this is from Sam Vaknin? The narcissistic women that I'm aware of are misandrists, which is the opposite of a misogynist. They hold men in contempt and they loathe and fear them. Sam continues, they seek to torment and frustrate their partners either by debasing them sexually or by withholding sex from them. They harbor ambiguous feelings towards the sexual act. I'll carry on. I'll finish this and then I'll come to your question, Jem. This forms the basis of answering your question. That's why I'm reading this first. The somatic narcissist, cats outside are killing each other. The somatic narcissist uses sex to conquer and secure new sources of narcissistic supply. This is very important that you understand this. Anybody who's become addicted to the sexual element of a relationship with a narcissist. Consequently, the somatic rarely gets emotionally involved with his targets. His is a mechanical act devoid of intimacy and commitment. The cerebral narcissist feels that sex is demeaning and degrading. Acting on one's sex drive is a primitive, basic, and common impulse. The cerebral narcissist convinces himself that he is above all that, endowed as he is with superior intelligence and superhuman self-control. Still, sex for both types of narcissist is an instrument designed to increase the number of sources of supply. If it happens to be the most efficient weapon in the narcissist's arsenal, he makes profligate use of it. In other words, if the narcissist cannot obtain adoration, admiration, approval, applause, or any other kind of attention by other means, like intellectually, he resorts to sex. He then becomes an nymphomaniac, indiscriminately engages in sex with multiple partners. His sexual partners are considered by him to be objects, sources of narcissistic supply. It is through the processes of successful seduction and sexual conquest that the narcissist derives his badly needed narcissistic fix. The narcissist is likely to perfect his techniques of courting and regard his sexual exploits as a form of art. I would add to this, and it's going to now answer your question, and then I'm going to expand on this. He'll perfect his techniques of courting and regard his sexual exploits as a form of art, and he will perfect the techniques of his sexual performance as a form of art to hook you, to keep you in. It's quite deliberate. I've spoken to people who have been clinically diagnosed. Well, the girl I spoke to who was clinically diagnosed, she was clinically diagnosed as a borderline, extremely pronounced histrionic traits. And there's two guys I've spoken to who have admitted the same thing to me, and they were both clinically diagnosed with their narcissistic personality disorder. And all three of these people openly admitted to me that they quite deliberately trained themselves to be amazing in bed, so that they would, the guys kind of said, I really want that girl to be hooked to me. I really want that girl to be addicted to me. The girl went one step further. She said, I want to destroy that man for other women. I want him to not be able to enjoy sex with anybody else but me. I want to break so many of his boundaries and blow his mind sexually so profoundly that he's ruined now for other women. So she actually just openly said that. She took it a step further. I think that's what the guys wanted to say to me, but they were being a little bit coy. They weren't quite being as savagely honest as she was. But also because she's a histrionic and a borderline, she would have said that to me to, you know, to provoke, to cause a response. The response I gave her was, interesting. I shall probably talk about that one day in a YouTube video. Thank you. So what you need to understand is, let's look at it like this. Let me just go back and look at the video and check the Q&A and make sure my sound is still running. Lisa says, can we have Maxi time at some point? No, you can't. Max is asleep in another room. He's been playing on the beach today. He's a very tired little boy. So, but I'm going to do another Google Hangout on this same subject because I realized today there's so much to cover. I'm going to do that in the next few days, and Max will be on that one. So what we have here is we have a person who, for all the world, looks like a human being, same as anybody else. But inside of them, they're broken in a way that makes them kind of like the Terminator mixed with a lizard. They're deeply addicted to the reactions of others. And they're like a hungry ghost. They're just a floating hungry ghost that changes and is like a sort of a gas cloud that will manifest any shape or color or style of personality or character that they think you want them to be, to get the reaction from you of adoration, adulation, narcissistic supply, and addiction. It's not enough for this kind of addict to go, oh, she really likes me. That's pretty awesome. She's really into me. That's cool. I'll leave it at that. They have to take it. What makes narcissistic personality different to just pronounced narcissistic traits is they have to take it one step further. Like, I have to addict that girl to me in a way that will break her. I have to make it so that girl can't live without me. So you imagine you've got like a person, I'm saying like a person, like a human, not a human in the normal sense, an empty shell. All of the normal biological computer RAM, the random access memory that a person usually adopts to sort of think and feel, and do I prefer toffee ice cream or is it the salted caramel I want, the deep philosophical questions of life, and they're checking their feelings, and they're inhabiting their own body, and they're just being a human, being a person. Well, the narcissist doesn't waste any RAM, any random access memory on any of that gibberish. All of that to them is just self-indulgent nonsense. And the only thing that counts is the game. And the game is the acquisition, domination of the resource of narcissistic supply in the form of applause and adulation and adoration. So you now have somewhere between the Terminator and a lizard who's been eviscerated, scooped out. All the emotion, the heart, the soul has just been scooped. And what's been left is a single-minded machine that's not like the old Terminator that Arnie played. It's like the silvery Terminator that was made of mercury, that could be anybody, to get the job done, to fulfill the mission of killing Sarah Connor. Whereas Arnie was just like a rigid robot. This thing was made of mercury. And back in the 90s, that was some really cool special effects. I saw that film 3 times in the cinema. It was very exciting for me. Kind of looks a bit crappy now. But that's what you're dealing with. And that person is focused solely on that one mission, which is to get the right kind of emotional reaction from people. Now, over a long enough period of time, i.e. a lifetime, because this personality disorder, to be the narcissistic personality disorder, has to have developed in childhood. So I'm 38. So I would have had, from the age of 3 to now, 35 years to perfect the technique and the skill and the art of getting the right reaction from people. Generally, just at the emotional, psychological level, day to day. How good would I be if, as a good, as an empty, robotic psychopath, gas cloud person who could be anything, that you want, the talented Mr. Ripley, I'll be whatever I need to be to get the job done. I'll literally absorb other people's personas. Fantastic actors, people. I get people coming to me going with the celebrity stuff, like singers and actors and stuff like that. Yeah, guess what? A lot of actors are quite narcissistic. A lot of celebrities and singers, they're quite narcissistic. A lot of stand-up comics, they're quite narcissistic. It shouldn't be that much of a surprise, really. It's a reaction-seeking personality disorder. And these are the experts in that field. They know what they're doing. So to answer your question, Jill, if I took all that skill and all that resource, that ability that I've developed over my whole life, having you become addicted sexually would be a relatively easy thing, wouldn't it? If you imagine a guy or a girl who's like a super spy, that's like a super agent, they're a genius of adopting other people's personas and disguises and entities, and they can speak multiple foreign languages, and they have a photographic memory, and they can kill you with their bare hands, and all of this. And this huge skill set. And then you have one part of the skill set is, you also need to be quite good in bed. They'll probably crack that code fairly easily, which is, another subject that I want to come to later on, which is that, maybe there's 2 sides to this coin. Maybe we're susceptible to this. partly because we, as the codependent, as the the perpetual victim to these personality types, we're not fully expressed sexually. We're not fully aware of where we're up to sexually. This is not the sole confine of the codependent, of the person with CPTSD. It's culturally quite normal at this point in human history, despite all the pornography that there is a lack of understanding of actual sexuality, and there's a lack of an ability to talk about sex. You can't actually talk about sex. So because you can't talk about it, you can't explore it. So a lot of people are walking around, and you will think I'm talking about women. You've no idea. I coach men as well. Men are just as confused. Then they do not permit themselves to want what it is they truly want, and they do not know what they want. It's Slavoj Žižek. Remember, I told you the Balkan philosopher, the Slovenian philosopher Slavoj Žižek, who he studies cinema a lot. I make a lot of cinematic references, but I am a white belt compared to Slavoj, who uses cinematic references to critique ideology. You should go and check him out. He's done a bunch of documentaries, and they're really cool. They take like bits of films, like all kinds of films from all different eras and styles and genres, and he critiques modern Western ideology through these different genres of films. He says cinema is the ultimate pervert art form, the ultimate perverted art form, because it doesn't just teach you what to want, it teaches you how to want. And this, I would say, is what the narcissist does. It gets hold of people. I just said it. That's a bit naughty, isn't it? It gets hold of people and very quickly and very easily goes like a machine, like a Terminator, or like those spiders in the Matrix that would swim through the thing and then find the little cabin they're hiding in and start deconstructing it. And it'll go, what does this entity want? What is this entity about? This entity needs to break the boundary of blah, 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 blah. This entity is going to be excited by the idea of blah, 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 and then it just does that. And then genuinely feels excited by your response, but doesn't have, so you have desires. If you're a human being, you have desires and tendencies and certain wants and preferences, and that's great. That's part of the beauty of life. That's what keeps genetic diversity going. That's what, you like the toffee ice cream, I want the salted caramel, blah, 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 that's fantastic. They don't have that. They don't have preferences in the way that a normal human being does. They have to look to you for those preferences. So without you there, without the other person there being fed upon, there can't really be any sort of sexual energy flowing. So again, bringing the Matrix and Slavoj Žižek into this. What Slavoj Žižek said about the Matrix, he said, what's interesting about this is not that the Matrix needs humans and needs human energy in order to function, but that the human energy, the libidinous energy, the sexual drive to life, needs the Matrix in order to function. We need the structure, is what Slavoj Žižek would say. Well, I'll take that and take it into the narcissism world and say the narcissists need the structure. They can't enjoy sex without you being there so they can feed off your reaction. But at the same time, they ignore you when you are there. They need a human there to feel your lust and your excitement, but then they ignore you once they've got you there. I must have you. So how many of you experience, how many of all of us experience this? I have to have you, I have to have you. It's so exciting. I want to be with you, I want to be with you. I've got you, I'm bored now. And now you're here, now I can masturbate. Now that I have this other human being in my space, now I can really enjoy masturbation and ignoring you. There's more from the Sam Vaknin article I'm going to get to in a minute. That's about how, for narcissists, sexuality is always masturbation. It's always autoeroticism. There's questions coming through. I'll better answer a few and then I'll come back to that. Okay, Jen goes on to ask, so let's say he broke me sexually, spoiled me for other men. Knowing all of this intellectually doesn't change the feelings inside, I guess because the sex stuff sits in the reptile brain. Sorry, it moved there because somebody else asked the question. I don't know how to use this properly. Oh, I know how to do it. I remember this now. Okay, good. Clever, Richie. Well done. This is again. There you go. So how to become normal again. Okay, Jen, the way you become normal, and one of the things that drove me into counseling in 2010, where I went into therapy, two things were like, one of it was like I had massive anger management issues. I had no idea what CPTSD was. I didn't even really understand PTSD. I thought PTSD was soldiers waking up in the night thinking that they were being mortared, and that was it. You know, it was as simple as that. It was reduced to the simple, like, oh, you have visual flashbacks of an unpleasant incident. I had no fucking idea. This is after years of studying psychology, years and years. Like, I'm the only person in my psychology class who I know who continued after university to study psychology and to work with it and get paid real adult money for it. I'm the only person in my class. And even after 10 years of being that guy, I still didn't know anything. I knew a little bit about psychopaths and narcissism, but not on this level, certainly nothing about CPTSD. So I went to a therapist because I said I have anger management issues and I am clearly a sex addict, because I keep going back to this girl who I know is completely destructive for me, completely wrong for me, very hurtful, very damaging, very boundary breaking, makes me feel awful, but I can't refuse that thing. I can't not have sex with her. I have to have sex with her. So please treat me for sex addiction. That was the way I framed it. And I thought for a while that was who I was. It became internalized. And I thought, oh, I'm one of those people who, is fundamentally an addict, and they can get addicted to anything. They can get addicted to training, to alcohol, to yoga, to sex. That's how I framed it. Now I wouldn't frame it like that. Now I'd say, okay, well, what happened is that it was somebody who thrives off the attention and reaction of other people, did a good job to make me feel a certain way in the bedroom. Well, that's what everybody should be doing. You shouldn't have to be personality disordered to do that. I'm not going to lecture people about my views on sex and sexuality, because a lot of religious people follow this channel and they get pissed off with me. Historically, I've never had worse reactions to videos than when I start talking about sex and sexuality. But I would just say this: the world is in a pretty fucked up place right now. And if we can't get past the silliness of dealing with our own winkles, we deserve the catastrophe that's coming to us. It's only sex. It's only sex. But people's twistedness and warpedness and repression leads to male and female genital mutilation, the slicing off of important body parts, it leads to pedophilia, it leads to perversion, it leads to rage, rape, hatred, and only because we can't just say, I really want to do this, or I really want to do that, and then just go and fucking do it. Get out your system, have a glass of water, and then go and do something else. Expression is the opposite of repression. Just do it. It doesn't, and then it won't be a thing anymore, and it won't matter. Now, I'm not moralizing. Let me get off my soapbox here. Do whatever makes you comfortable. The way you relate to yourself sexually is as intimate to you as how you spend your money. And though it's called the Spartan Life Coach, I've never had any ambition of telling people how to live their lives. I find the idea ridiculous, as if I know how another person should live their life because I perfected how to live my own. That's a nonsensical idea. I would suggest to you, though, that sex is one of these things that you have to get a handle of, like physical fitness, like money, like nutrition. It's just a part of life. You've got to get a handle of it, and you need to get a handle of your own sexuality. So, Jem, what you could do is what I did, is actually sit down and analyze and deconstruct exactly what you found so exciting about that sex that you were having. Sort fact from fiction, because when you are with a narcissistic personality, whatever you think or feel when you are in that blast zone, meaning you might flirt with them 2 weeks ago, so you're still in the blast zone of the explosion of that relationship 2 months ago, 2 years ago, could be. Some people get out of it quicker, some people slower, whatever. If you're still feeling the effects of that relationship, then whatever you think or feel, you should assume that's because that's what he wants you to think or feel. So what's happening here, Jen? And I don't want to assume too much or tell you what your experience was, but the sex with him was probably good sex with a guy who's very keen on making sure that you enjoyed it, with a guy who's probably had sex with a lot of other women and so is experienced and is this is really hard to say this without fucking getting controversial and upsetting people, is psychopathic and personality disorders enough to do what a normal human being should do without the cultural trappings, which is to assertively make you happy, he said, using a heavy-handed euphemism. And women should be doing the same. In my view, sorry, I've always been a bit of a pagan, guys. Don't shout at me. I think to deny our own animalistic nature is a crazy, crazy-making, catastrophe-inducing lie, and it shouldn't be this way. So Jen, he wasn't that special. He's just a guy who made an effort to make you feel a certain way, and it worked. And also, he wants you to think it was amazing. So you do, because you're still under the zombie witch doctor spell. But probably, objectively, it was good, but not quite as good as you think. Okay, so that's separating fact from fiction. Next level. It was good then. Yes. How? What was he doing that was so good? Why could a normal, non-abusive man not do that to you? Why could that not be the same thing in a normal, loving, boundaried, faithful relationship? Why can't that happen? Now you're going to move into dodgy territory. People are going to start throwing cyber rotten tomatoes at me, and we're going to have to talk about culture and how people choose to live. Dudes and dudettes, live your lives the way you want. Richie's not telling anybody to do anything. I was asked the question, I got to answer it honestly. There's no reason on this earth that somebody can't do something to you in the bedroom within a faithful, sane, non-abusive relationship. Nothing, because it's only play. It's only sex. That's all it is. It's like, it's only sex. So if the chocolate cake is rare, and so delicious, but you can only get it from one place, then that chocolate cake is going to play on your mind. Maybe you were taught as a little girl, you shouldn't want chocolate cake because chocolate cake is naughty. And good little girls don't like chocolate cake. Good little girls like vanilla sponge cake. And chocolate is fattening and it's bad for you and it's naughty and it's wrong and it's bad. And maybe this has created like a sexy taboo in your mind that's made you want it more. This is perfectly normal, happened to me, happened to a load of my clients as well. But you can deconstruct all this stuff. And in doing so, you'll learn a hell of a lot about yourself and about who you are as a person. And you'll uncover what your sexual identity is, which is a cool thing. It's a bit sad that for me, I had to wait to the age of 33 to know what I was about in the bedroom. And I thought I was a pretty unrepressed, open-minded dude. And I just didn't know. And I thought it was her. It wasn't her. How could it, like logically, how can it be? How can it be? Okay, I'm not going to get more graphic than that. But biologically speaking, like she's not that other person, that narcissistic personality. They're not God. They can't give you orgasms. That's you that's having. Okay, he'll leave it there. No need to go too far. I'll just leave implications around. Okay, I'm not answering these questions in order, and I'm sorry about that. I will try. Okay, please give me a moment. Jen says, Vaknin speaks in tongues. Please explain again in normal English. English is not my mother language and I don't understand a thing. You're joking, Jen. He's not, English isn't his mother tongue either. He speaks it pretty well. I hope you did get that, Jen. Trauma Recovery University. Hello, Trauma Recovery University. Thank you, Richard. I was raised by a narcissistic mother and borderline father. I'm a scapegoat, wondering what can be done to heal emotional wounds affecting intimacy in marriage. Yeah, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. The first thing is that needs to be done is you need to look at what the wounds actually are, at how they manifest, at what causes the triggers, and what kind of responses are coming. Because we say the word wounds in intimacy, and that could mean 1,001 different things to 1,001 different people. Some people get very angry and defensive at intimate moments. Some people are triggered by their own lust, which is difficult. Some people just become upset in the intimate context. So you've really got to look at it on a case-by-case basis and seek to resolve it that way. But as you know, Trauma Recovery University, because we've spoken a few times now, it's a long journey, it's a long process, and you've got to be very patient with yourself and very compassionate towards yourself. I'm going to try and answer some more of these questions. Ali says, this is not a question, but I wanted to say thanks for explaining about why a narc would refrain from being intimate. I'd read a lot about them being promiscuous, but my ex just made me feel unwanted and undesirable. Yeah, would you believe I've actually heard two narcissists bragging about this, about their ability to, one was it was a man and a woman, not very nice people who I knew through the less salubrious elements of the Liverpool nightclub scene. They were both criminals, basically. Both very physically attractive people who dressed and acted in a very overtly sexual way. And I heard them bragging to each other about how they would she would torture her boyfriend and he would torture his girlfriend by withholding sex. And they were like, yeah, but doesn't it work really well? Yeah, it does. And their whole thing was, that's the only thing they had. That's the only way they had to be controlling. So yeah, it's a real thing. The idea that the narcissist is always promiscuous, I call this the Patrick Bateman phenomena. It's usually online, and it's women talking to other women and building up a picture of narcissists as being Patrick Bateman. Handsome, successful, red sports car, always, and outgoing and confident and wealthy and super apex predator alpha male who wants to have sex with everything all the time. And it's a conflation of ideas. It's a conflation of archetypes and of stereotypes. Sex and the City has a lot to answer for, because it made a load of women think, well, if I just go with that hipstery guy in the cardigan with the nice beard and the horn-rimmed glasses who still listens to vinyl, he can't be a narcissist. Oops. So yeah, that the opposite. It's like a false logic. It's a cognitive bias, logical fallacy. You go, well, the opposite then, it surely couldn't be a narcissist, and that's obviously completely false. Narcissists certainly can be very, very asexual as a means of control, or they just are not. They're just genuinely not interested. It's not you. It really isn't you. They just don't feel that way. They just don't have those feelings inside of themselves. And you know, as we've already said here, 9 times out of 10, they have a very strange relationship with sex and with sexuality. One, because they're not a fully formed normal person with preferences. There's not really a human there who can say, hey, I prefer the salted caramel over the toffee flavored ice cream. They're just like, what's going to get me a reaction now in this scenario, or what's going to get me a reaction with this person? And you know, I can think of a good few cases where it's completely counterintuitive. I can think of 2 guys actually that I've known for years who behave in a very overtly sexual way, and they want to be seen to be ladies' men, but they've both admitted to me privately they do not care about sex. They don't. So I'm like, you're doing all of the hard work, all of the boring stuff of chasing people and getting reactions from people and going to stupid nightclubs filled with idiots and all of that, and none of the goodies. All right, okay, guys. I mean, you really have to be quite sick to do that. Okay. So Lisa asks, out of MPD abuse, where do we go from there? I need help connecting to a normal partner after 18 years of being in an MPD relationship. Yeah, it's a really easy answer. It takes me about 20 seconds to read out to you, and here we go. No, it's a tough one. You know, I'm still making videos, and I'm still trying to answer it. And there's just more. The more research I do, the more there is to say. The only reason I'm not making even more videos at the moment is I just personally in my own life have a lack of time. Time has become this really, really precious resource for me. And it is a very tough question to answer. I can tell you what my personal journey was. I can give you advice. I can offer you courses that I think will give you the straightest line from A to B. But it's a very, very complicated issue. And getting the roots of a narcissistically abusive relationship out can be tough, and it can take time. And some people can get halfway through the process and decide they don't want to do it. Because what if some of those roots are yours? What if we have to go back into your childhood and look at the basis of your intimate relationship with your father, your mother, and some people just go, no, I'm not doing that. That's psychobabble. It's bullshit. I don't want to do it. At which point you go, well, what can I say? If you go and you go all the way and you want your black belt in this, you'll be a much better, stronger human being, but you'll have learned in the process truly amazing things that you didn't want to know, had no wish to learn, but you will know a lot more than the people around you. But I can't just tell you, hey, Lisa, what you need to do is step 1 of my Recover from MPD Abuse course and step 2 and can't do that. I'm sorry. I can advise you to look into CPTSD, to educate yourself on the subject of CPTSD, to do the work to reduce emotional flashbacks. Me and Layla Lorick are about to release a new course either tomorrow or the day after, just short course, short manual, just full of techniques for what to do with emotional flashbacks. Seek to reduce them, seek to improve your understanding of the dynamics of narcissistic relationships, the formation of the narcissistic personality. Education, psychoeducation, as Pete Walker calls it, is one of the big things that helps. Compassionate dialogue with a counselor, therapist, or coach can help. Journaling can help. You just have to keep going. You just got to be determined to get through it and get out the other side. Sorry, I can't give you a more cut and dry answer than that. Okay. Oh, here's a good one. Jen, if a narc perfects their game in the bedroom and keeps their partner sexually addicted to them, is it normal for them to then go on dating websites and look for others to cheat? Is it for more sex, or is it to devalue their partner? Great freaking question, Jen. Why would they go to all that time and effort to figure out what you're about sexually, to push all your buttons at the same time? That was crude. To give you a mind-blowing experience and then go, oh yeah, I've done that now. I've conquered that challenge. I better go on a dating website. Let me go back to Sam Vaknin. So Sam was asked, what's the narcissist, hyperactive, or hypoactive? And he said they broadly fall into the 2 categories. Hyperactive would be a somatic narcissist. Hypoactive, not much going on in the bedroom, would be a cerebral narcissist. He was also asked in this question, are they likely to be unfaithful in marriage? Narcissists cheat on their spouses. They commit adultery and have extramarital affairs and liaisons for a variety of reasons which reflect disparate psychodynamic processes. Number 1 reason, in the quest for narcissistic supply, the somatic narcissist resorts to serial sexual conquests. So to answer your question, number 1, to a somatic narcissist, don't look at it from your world view, lady who is called Jen. Don't look at it like you do, because that's going to drive you crazy. So you go Planet Narco, we go to Planet Narco, we get our induction, we got our initiation, we go, wow, this place is crazy. We put on our narcissism glasses and we look at the world through the eyes of a narcissist. So you be a narcissist and I'll be a narcissist. What's better? To have sex with one person who tells you you're amazing in bed, or to have sex with 6 people who tell you you're amazing in bed? That's my first question. You've got your narcissist glasses on. Second question, once that person has admitted to you that they think you're the best person they've ever had sex with in their whole life, doesn't their value as a piece of narcissistic supply kind of drop? Because you kind of did your job. You've proven to yourself yet again, you're the best sexer ever. You're the best at sex. This is how childish they are. This is how childishly they think. You're the best at sex. Oh, am I? Can I get a fucking badge? And that's what helps them to, get their narcissistic supply and fill up and be full of narcissistic elation is just being told, you're really good at sexing. Oh, sexy you. And that's the children. The children begging, praying for a little pat on the head from the proxy mummy or daddy who they want, crave the attention from, but they hate craving the attention from you because you're the proxy mummy, as I was the proxy daddy. They were desperate for your validation and your attention, but hate you for wanting it and hate you because you have to be punished because you represent the abusive parent. And so, of course, they can't wait to devalue you. It makes them feel really powerful and tough and alpha female, alpha male, and they're just going to move on and get with somebody else instead. That's how it works. It makes sense if you look at it from their point of view. Point number 2, narcissists are easily bored. They have a low boredom threshold, and they have a very low tolerance for boredom. Sexual dalliances alleviate this nagging and frustrating ennui. For those of you whose English is not the first language, that's a French word meaning boredom. Number 3, narcissists maintain an island and focus of stability in their life, but all the other dimensions of their existence are chaotic, unstable, and unpredictable. This twister formation serves many emotional needs, which I expand upon elsewhere. Thus, a narcissist may be a model employee and pursue a career path over decades, even as he cheats on his wife and fritters their savings away. Number 4, narcissists feel superior and important, and so entitled to be above the law and to engage in behaviors that are frowned upon. Number 5, marriage, monogamy, and childbearing and rearing are common activities that characterize the average person. The narcissist feels robbed of his uniqueness by these pursuits and coerced into the relationship and into these roles of being husband, father, wife, mother, that reduce him to the lowest of common denominators. This narcissistic injury leads him to rebel and reassert his superiority and specialness by maintaining extramarital affairs. If I could just say number 5 in other words, in Richie language, this is how fucking crazy they are. Your expectation, you could be very undemanding in a relationship. I know that I was very undemanding in a relationship, but your expectation and society's expectation and their family's expectation and their culture's expectation that they be a normal partner to you inflicts injury on them. They're furious with you because you ask them not to cheat. That's how fucking crazy it is on planet Narco and why it's so tough for people to get their head around it. Let me carry on and then I will try and answer your question. Number 6, narcissists are control freaks. Having a relationship implies a give and take and a train of compromises, which the narcissist acutely interprets to mean a loss of control over his life, which is why they struggle so much with relationships, because they can't do give and take. Number 7, narcissists are terrified of intimacy. So one nicer reason, Jen, why he may have cheated on you is because you were getting somewhere. So it's nice in the most twisted sense. It's very, very cold comfort that you were getting somewhere. You were becoming intimate, and he was terrified of the intimacy with you. So he just destroyed everything, knowing that it was something that he could do that would drive you away from him. It sounds, I know I'm saying things that sound crazy, but this is the headspace you have to get yourself into. Number 7, narcissists are terrified of intimacy. Their behavior is best characterized as an approach, avoidance, repetition, complex. If you have time, boys and girls, if you have time and you really want to crack this, put into your favorite search engine the words approach, avoidance, repetition, complex. See what comes up and see if it seems at all familiar. Adultery is an excellent tool in the attempts to retard intimacy and resort to a less threatening mode of interaction. Narcissists typically claim that they have cheated in order to put the spark back into the relationship. Of course, how exactly an act of betrayal and faithlessness can rekindle the embers of a relationship founded initially on trust and sexual and emotional exclusivity is left conveniently unsaid. So, why did he do it? Was it a form of devaluation? Was it because he needed to be excited? Was it because of a fear of intimacy? Perhaps all of the above. They don't exist in the same planet. and reality tunnel as the rest of us do. And that's why their behavior is so bewildering and isolating and leaves us watching strange YouTube videos of funny times delivered by strange men in rooms with horrid modern art behind them. Lisa asks, are you taking new clients for therapy? I'm not at the moment. What I'm looking to do is to train up some people to be coaches using the same method that I do. And I'm also looking to network with people who've been recommended to me so that I can recommend them out to others. Therapists who work on Skype at the moment, there is one lady, and I don't have her permission to give her name out, but hopefully I will do midway through next month, and then I can start recommending her to people, because at the moment I can't recommend anybody because I don't know anybody well enough to know that they can do this job, and I myself will not be taking clients in the foreseeable future because I have a very strong case of burnout. Okay. What happens when a narcissist game or facade eventually stops working? Asks Laura. My ex's game stopped working on me and it led to our divorce. But I'm shocked at how many people are still making excuses for his behavior, even when I point out his contradictions. Okay, good questions. So the first one, when his game stops working on you and you're like, I'm not playing anymore, you said, my ex's game stopped working on me and it led to our divorce. You can't answer the question, but I'm going to suggest that it led to your divorce quickly. Quickly. You quickly got into a divorce. He quickly was looking for the door. They can't deal with the idea that their amazing charm, their cleverness, their psychological manipulative abilities aren't working on you, and they'll just fucking leave. So if you draw the line and you go, I'm not doing this anymore. This is not working for me anymore. They'll leave. They'll be out the door. If you do that as a fake, that's not going to work. Don't try and fake your way through this. When I used to teach self-protection to people, I would always say, don't front. It's very dangerous to front. It's very dangerous to fake, like, if you attack me, I'm gonna chop you in the neck, and then somebody will just punch you in the face. It needs to be authentic. So yeah, when the game stops working, they'll leave. Why would they hang around with somebody who's now making them feel bad about how much they suck? The idea that you can see the real them is terrifying. It's terrifying. When you don't adore their fake self-image, they feel like they're disappearing. They feel like, in Back to the Future, where they didn't do the time machine change right, and people started to disappear. They started to exist less in reality and turn into ghosts. So they respond usually in a very volatile, violent, not necessarily physical way, quickly, because they need to resolve the situation, because you're not a useful source of supply anymore. I'm shocked at how many people are still making excuses for his behavior, even when I point out his contradictions. I am very sorry, Laura, that you're experiencing that. It's crazy making. It's isolating. It's depressing. When you're the only person who can see it and nobody else can, and people defend your ex-partner, I know how painful that can be. Why do people do it? Because one of the things you learn studying this subject is that your average person is pretty dumb. Even when they're smart, they don't really want to think. They don't really want to see much past the surface. And people believe what they believe about reality, not on the basis that it's true, but on the basis that it is convenient. Do I sound cynical? Maybe it's because I am. Good question, Laura. Thank you. Catherine asks, so the innate sexuality of a person. Sorry, let me move your question here. So the innate sexuality of a person and my personal not feeling it being all me and confused by what I want isn't full on about being cluster B raised, but is a cultural condition. That actually makes me feel a lot better, man. Well, good, because I didn't understand your question, but let me read it again. So the innate sexuality of a person and my personal not feeling it being all me and confused by what I want isn't full on about being cluster B raised, as in raised by cluster B, got it? But it's a cultural condition. Yeah, what I'm saying is if you're confused about what you want, just welcome to the club. Most people are. I was lucky growing up. I stumbled across some stuff that helped. It used to be called Women on Top. It's now called My Secret Garden. It's a book of, it was a psychological study of sexual fantasies conducted by Nancy Friday. I got hold of that and it taught me a lot and I found it helpful. And it was also a comparative study between male and female sexual fantasies. And sadly, men fell to the gender stereotype of being mechanistic and content rather than context focused. And it is falling to a gender stereotype. I don't think that men's sexuality is really like that. I think that's a byproduct of marketing and cultural conditioning and what the Illuminati want us to think and how they want. What? Who said Illuminati? Don't be silly. That puts people off. I can't help it. But the people who are in charge of how you think, and there are people who do, that's not a conspiracy theory. People like Edward Bernays, Freud's nephew, they coerced how people would think so that they would be more productive and go to work and do jobs and do slave labor and pay their taxes and all the rest of it. And that has corrupted sexuality, has corrupted how we think about sex. So yeah, you'll need to go out there and read that book and read the comparative study with male sexual fantasies and realize that that is not innate. That it should be that way. It's that many things are okay for women to do that men really want to do, but we're not allowed to. Bill Burr does a good stand-up comedy piece about that, where he talks about how men want to stroke the puppy, they want to cry in the film, they want to whatever it is, but we're scared of being shamed for being weak, so we don't. So I spend some time saying to men, you've got to be kinder to women, and sometimes I say to women, you've got to be kinder to men. You've got to be a little bit more understanding. It's not just women that get shoved into cookie cutter gender roles. Men do too, and men and women suffer when men and women are shoved into gender roles that don't fit them. So yeah, it's not unusual for you to not know what you want. You should have a look around. You should check it out. You should experiment with what you want. How are you going to know otherwise? Richard's getting pagan again. He's worried he's going to upset people. It's only sex. Please also explain again the sexual attraction they have on us. Although I feel like I'm over him, I still can't have sex with anyone else. I think I did this one before. I don't feel anything if I have sex with someone else. Yeah. Yeah. Can you make a video about self-harm? Okay, I will at some point. It's a good suggestion, Kate. I'll do that. Okay. I'm going to start wrapping these questions up, and then I think I'm going to finish. And I'm going to, there's a bunch of other interesting articles that I found that I will cover in part 2 of this, which I'll do in a few days' time. We'll do another Google Hangout in a few days' time. I've been watching, Susan says, I've been watching your helpful videos for over a year. Hey, by the way, now that we're talking about gender, and I noticed that all these questions are coming in from women, men, I know you're watching. I get the YouTube stats. Like, if you read through my comments, you would think it's like 90% women watching. It's not. It's 50-50. It's male and female. But all you men are silent. That's what I did. When I split up with my ex, I didn't want to go and tell people that I felt bad. And I felt sad and alone and isolated and heartbroken. I felt bad about that because I was a tough guy. I had the shaved head, and I ran a website called Street Fight Secrets, and I taught men how to fight with other men. I couldn't possibly admit to such feelings. But you should talk to somebody. You can use an anonymous handle on here and ask me questions. That would be cool. Women or gay guys are quite happy to contact me, all day. Yeah, guys, come on, step up now. You can ask for help. That's okay. Being Spartan does not mean silently just sitting in a corner and slowly dying. inside. It also means having the bravery to speak and say what it is that you're really feeling, telling the truth, and being brave about other people's reactions to your truth. Susan, been watching your helpful videos for over a year. I married and divorced 2 narcs. First one was overt and cheated. The second one was covert and controlling, abusive to the stepchildren and to me. How can I help my kids not follow into the same pattern as their father? Just did a blog post recently, actually. It's over on Nabs Recovery, nabs-recovery.com. I did it with Layla Lorick. If you go to her blog at nabs-recovery.com, I think the last blog post says what to do when children are involved. And there's like a little script that I wrote that you could say to your kids that will help with this kind of thing if you want to say it. I'm not how to teach people how to parent. I couldn't possibly do that. Don't have any kids of my own, but maybe it would help. It's going to be about the honest expression of their emotions and their own ability to say no. It's unlikely that they'll follow in the footsteps of their father if they have a strong, loving, and kind mother to follow instead. You have a lot more power over your children than you realize, and they're modeling you all the time. That's the thing. When I talk to parents, it's one thing that I think they don't get is they're not going to do what you say as much as they do what you do. So if you express your emotions honestly and openly and ask for what you want in a clear way, and if you take your shoes off at the door before you go into the house, then they'll do that too. It's a very strong unconscious drive in them, and they won't even know consciously that they're doing it. So you have a lot more power than you realize. But check out that blog, it might help. Amy says, I became hypersexual during my relationship with my narc ex. I think this was partly due to him triangulating me with his ex-wife. Criticizing her frigid behavior as a way of regulating my sexual behavior with him. Is this common? The thing that's common is weird stuff around sex. So it could be too much sex, too little sex, or people are coming home and finding the boyfriend has got their thong on and they're dressing up in their clothes. Or guys are coming home and finding their girlfriends are whatever. You know, it's weird, like out of the norm of what you would usually expect. Or sex just being made a thing. Because one of the things for narcissists is they'll take control however they can. Money, power, fame, success, a name, reputation, access, whatever it is, it's all power, it's all potential leverage to leverage a narcissistic supply. So don't focus too much on the sex. Think of it as a convenient way of getting a particular job done. So is it common to create triangulation with the ex-wife by criticizing her frigid behavior? It's something that guys will do. It's known amongst men, some men, as a potential tactic. So you could, this is the type of thing that they teach in the pickup community. So if you say to a girl, my ex was really frigid and I didn't like it, that at some level the girl you're with will feel compelled to compete with your ex for to not be just like her. The same psychology would work on men as well, but I've only seen it being applied one way, asymmetrically, as it were. I should do one of these about the pickup community one time. What a mess of cluster B disorders that part of the internet is. Okay, Kate asks, is there any way you can imagine that a narc is forced to make his sex abuse victim sex frightened girlfriend hot in order to punish her for looking good and making him hot? I know it's weird. I'm out of this relationship, but I'm in flashback fight terror. Can you imagine that a narcissist would force his girlfriend to look hot in order to punish her for looking hot? Yeah, I can. You should consider that maybe that was more than narcissism. That sounds to me more like psychopathic behavior. He would have possibly been enjoying your helplessness, your frustration at being caught in a no-win, in a double bind. I hope that relationship didn't go on for very long, because being caught in those kinds of double binds and being flooded with adrenaline regularly through the fear of violence, or being terrorized, can really have quite damaging effects on you, that can start to manifest at the biological level, because your adrenaline starts spiking for no reason whatsoever. You just get into a pattern of it, and then you get a dysregulation of the HPA axis. But yes, I can imagine a cluster B doing that. Sounds more psychopathic than narcissistic to me, for what it's worth. And I'm not an expert in this field. I just read the research because people ask me these questions. Spartan life coach, not Spartan psychiatrist, boys and girls. I am a diagnosed narcissist. I do not know which kind I am. However, my question is, I'm not that sexually active in my relationships. I usually prefer my woman giving me compliments for my looks instead. I do not feel a strong sexual urge. Why? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It's one of the questions that I've had. You may be a cerebral narcissist, perhaps. But why would, one of my questions was, why would a person, any person, you're a biological entity, the DNA, the genetics are not creating a personality, but they are damn sure pushing you to breed, usually. So why, in certain types of narcissism, is there no sexual urge? I will ask another diagnosed narcissist, Mr. Sam Vaknin, and I'm sure he will give me an answer, and I will hand that answer on to you, Gustav. Yeah, I usually prefer my woman giving me compliments for my look instead. I've known a couple of guys like you. I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know where that is. I don't know where the sexual urge has gone. It could be, and I'm totally pontificating, and I'm not qualified to pontificate in this area, that if you are out of touch with your more vulnerable emotions, that you start to lose touch with your libido as well. They might be that intricately connected, so that if you can't be intimate with yourself, you can't imagine being intimate with anybody else, and therefore the sex drive just kind of switches off. But I associate a switched off sex drive, and I'm not trying to like be mean or worry you here, Gustav, but I associate a switched off sex drive, because I'm such a flaming pagan, with some kind of serious issue. As in, so in my goofy interpretation of psychology and biology, the body and brain should be prioritizing sex quite a lot, unless calories suddenly drop in the environment, you slip in starvation mode. Trauma occurs and you're so flooded with adrenaline that your body and your brain are saying, don't have sex with anybody because you need to run from the predators and run from the plague, or you're depressed, or I usually see that as being symptomatic of something that is a bit more serious, because it's a whole part of the system that is rooted with your survival as completely switched off. So yeah, I don't really know why that's happening. I've given you my pontificatory answer. I will email Sam and ask him. I'm sure he'll give me a more thorough answer, or at least be able to point me to the right research. Thanks for your question. OS, thank you, Richard. Since January, your videos have continued to help me. Thank you. I'm glad you're watching, and I'm glad the videos help. Jen asks, 1 month before I first met him, coincidentally, I had a precognitive dream about meeting him. Meet spelled M-E-A-T. That's a Freudian slip. I had a very clear warning in the dream. Did you hear of similar things? Yes, I did. And I experienced similar things. It's one of the things that I've been meaning to talk about on the channel for a long time. Never got round to it. Bit worried about how people respond. There's so much focus and need and drive for help with just plain psychology and narcissistic abuse, and I'm not answering as many questions as I should be and as I could be, so I've just focused on that. But yes, I've had precognitive dreams several times, not just about narcissistically abusive relationships, but a couple of times about catastrophes in the world. A couple couple of days before they happened, and they were pretty clear cut, like there's going to be an earthquake and a flood in Brazil in a couple of days' time, and then well, you know, that kind of thing. So yeah, who knows what causes these things? Maybe Carl Jung can help us. OS, you had a question. I'm just going to answer a few more of these, and then I'm gonna have to stop. Hey, did you guys like this mic? I think the sound quality is better, and it's so shiny. Look, it's chrome and it's heavy. Isn't it nice when you buy something and it's not? It's expensive and it's heavy instead of being cheap and plastic. I love it. Okay. I've been in many relationships with narcissists. I'm working on my boundaries and my CPTSD and realizing a lot of friends are narcs. It's a shame. Now I'm suspecting friends and I just don't know if they are or aren't, but it's driving me crazy. Help. I'll help you. It's a high chance that they are. It's a high chance that you've created a whole social network with people who are sick because of the CPTSD, because of the codependency and the people pleaser syndrome. If you suspect that that is going on, you could start journaling. You could start looking at, okay, I said this, they said that. It seems that they're only interested in keeping me as a friend as long as I keep lending them money that they never pay me back, or whatever. And if you've got a lot of relationships where if you took out the exploitative element where they're getting something from you, if the whole relationship would fall apart and there'd be no interest, well then, whether they're a narcissist or not, I'm not qualified to diagnose, neither are you. Don't drive yourself crazy with that. But that's not a nice relationship, and that's not a particularly nice person, and you don't need people like that in your life. So there's my help. I hope that did help. Catherine says, holy shit, the whole I want you, okay, you lie on the bed, don't move, and I'm going to masturbate and look at other women on the computer while you're here with me. Spot on, dude. Thank you. Thank you. You can imitate Sam. I think you discount how many people would find that funny, not in a mean way, because he does have good stuff. And then your comment disappeared. I don't know where it went. Oh, strange. Okay, maybe it was me. Oh, there you are. Because he does have good stuff if they've watched his channel after you've heard him introduce himself in his book 50 times in the same way. My name is Sam Vaknin. Now, where I started to really get into what the man was saying is listening to him in an interview. So I'm not out to, like, if people don't want to listen to him, that's completely fine. I'm not going to smack people over the head with that. The information that he provides is actually really, really good. Believe me, I read a lot of the stuff. Became a member of that ridiculously expensive JSTOR thing just so I could read the fucking research papers, and he's really good, boys and girls. He really is. The interviews make him a lot more accessible. So yeah, I recommend you check out his interviews if you have any interest at all, or just read his articles on the website. They're brilliant. He's a very, very smart guy. Okay, enough. Can narcissists be both cerebral and somatic? Somatic, as in soma, as in the body, of the body, somatic. Possibly a combination of both, creating an uber narcissist. Well, you know, any means of exploitation is going to be used. My ex was titillating on both an intellectual and sexual level. Also, would the sexual abuse he suffered as a small child play any part in his NPD? Yes, absolutely. NPD is a complex post-traumatic stress disorder response. It is a response to trauma. That's what NPD is. It's not demons infecting the water. It's not a bad gene. It's a response to trauma, the trauma of neglect, the trauma of sexual abuse, the trauma of violent abuse, the trauma of whatever. It is fundamentally, that's all it is a defense, is a response. It's a defense response. It's a protective defense response. If you get, I'm going to reveal my ignorance of injury. I used to be really up on injury, the biology of injury, when I was teaching martial arts, and I've forgotten a lot of it. But say the body gets hit, and there's pain, and then there's swelling there, and then the body releases blood, and there's hemoglobin, and then a scab is formed. There's hardness, or you break an arm, or you condition an arm through smashing it because you're into karate and things, and you think that's the way to go. and you can actually build up calcium over time. Where there is trauma, what is left after trauma, if it's not a break, is usually a hardness. A scar is usually a hardness. Call them segs. From what do you call them? Calluses. Calluses. Like I get calluses when I do the kettlebells or lift a barbell. It's a response to hardship. The body hardens where hardship is present. So it's a hardening. To use poetic language, it's like a really deep, really intense, eternal hardening of the heart. That's rather poetic, isn't it? That perpetually hides for the rest of the life behind a shield. And for those of you who are going, oh, but then I can save them and get them out. It's really, really, really hard, and they don't want out. They don't like. It's not. It's very, very tough. To really sort of get your head around what that thing actually is. But yes, absolutely, sexual abuse could cause it, for sure. Your other question was, could it be both? Yeah, I know people who are cerebral and somatic narcissists. I know people who are somatic narcissists who would like to think of themselves as cerebral as well. So, okay, let's start wrapping up. Please, no more questions, folks. I've been in this odd position because of this funky new microphone. Okay. So I've been asked here, yes, I'm asking myself, why can't it happen with a healthy man? The sex was so good because it was so intense. It was like he touched the deepest part of my soul. Yeah, it's that should be possible with a non-abusive man. That should be possible with a non-psychopathic, non-narcissistic man, and would be if less time and effort and money and energy were expended in demasculinizing men and defeminizing women. The really, like, I'm completely, by some people's standards, I'm batshit crazy as a conspiracy theorist. I'm such a fucking pagan. I genuinely believe that the powers that be, the people who are in control of the nations run by corporations, want you to have sexual problems. They want you to not fully enjoy sex. Because what kind of, like, how good a little worker drone taxpayer are you going to be if you're just fucking all the time and being a hippie? If you just, like, smoking weed, have some sex, eat some organic food, do some finger painting, man, the hippie movement was a real threat. It was a real savage threat to a way of life. And if people just did that and were fulfilled and happy for free in their own homes, you can't even control it. You can't even draw market data from it. At least when people sit around watching TV, you can draw something from that, or you can advertise things, or you can give them the news, or you can do something with that. But people just go in their rooms and have a little party by lighting up each other's nervous systems, by lighting up each other's limbic systems, and giving each other experiences that the TV can't even get close to, that the government can't even get close to. They can't tax that. They hate that. So, of course, they're going to create gender wars. Of course, they're going to create, through mind control programs like Sex and the City, that destroy the idea of faithful relationships between men and women. And they even corrupted the idea of faithful gay relationships through that show, and made it all just a mockery and just like, so you're faithful, duh. Anybody who's cool does this and is really promiscuous, and it's all really unsatisfactory, and nobody's really enjoying it. And in reality, what do we see being played out? Well, of course, nobody's really enjoying it, and it's completely unsatisfactory. Sex and the City was set in New York. I lived in London for a while. What do you think if you have a bunch of selfish people who are absolute, pure, dyed-in-the-wool, hypnotized consumers who want to take from everybody else in a community? Do you think they're all going to be having amazing sex and really you described it as an intense experience? It's only ever intense when the other person is there for you, focused on you. Sadly, you experience something that is the way it should be for dark reasons, like the guy did it to exploit you, but that's the way it's supposed to be. There's supposed to be that intensity. There's supposed to be that level of focus. There's supposed to be, you know, where the blood pounds so hard, you hear it in your ears. That's what you're supposed to be getting. And if you're not, then you're going to be depressed and anxious. There, I said it. It came out. I knew if you keep asking me, it would just come out. Gosh. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up soon. Hey again, Rich. Thank you for your answer. Do you think there will ever be a cure for NPD? I was abused as a child in early age to my later teens by my father. I believe that is the cause I got NPD. It sucks to not maintaining a healthy relationship. I don't know where you are up to. You know, we use these broad psychiatric terms, these diagnoses, because they are convenient, not because they are best for the end user, not because they're the best thing for you. You getting rubber stamped with NPD is convenient to the system and the institute that rubber stamped you. So this person who has NPD over here could be completely different to this person who has NPD over here. Some people who have pronounced narcissistic traits or elements of the personality disorder, I am told, are capable of a degree of intimacy. You really should speak to Sam Vaknin. He's been twice diagnosed as having narcissistic personality disorder. He is in a sustained, stable, monogamous relationship. So you should ask him rather than asking me. He's a great resource. He's right there. You should do it, dude. You know, do I think there's a cure? There's a cure for people with pronounced narcissistic traits. The research is in that one. There's been too many cases where psychotherapists and psychiatrists who are like, right, I'm going to be the one that cracks NPD. And they try and they say, I found the cure for NPD. Well, they didn't find the cure for NPD, but they did manage to get some leverage with people who have pronounced narcissistic traits. So maybe you don't have NPD, dude. If you don't have, why would you be here asking me a question if you think you have godlike omnipotence, omniscience, and that nobody could teach you anything, least of all me? The fact that you're asking the question, provided you're not trolling me, provided it's a genuine question, means that we're really talking about pronounced narcissistic traits rather than full-blown NPD, in which case, yeah, why not? It's happened before. Psychiatric literature is out there. Or what I've read is reports from psychiatrists who said, here's the case, this is how the narcissism manifested, this is what we did, and over time, this is where we got to. And it really is just about teaching people to become vulnerable and get back into their emotions again. Please make a hangout one time about how to stop being bitter and hating the crazy world and men and war and hunger and capitalism and whatnot. Yeah, you're just crazy. That's the only way to not get sucked into the bitterness and the despair. You've got to be crazy in your own little way. And Robert Anton Wilson had a good answer for this. You know, he just decided to believe that he and his friends and his wife and his community and his family had the same power as anybody else, and that they were in charge. And then he lived like that, as though that were true, even though he knew that it couldn't possibly be true. And he just decided to be cheerful and happy and optimistic. There's always hope, Frodo. There's always hope. Here we go. Last question will be, what is the connection? This is from Hannah. What is the connection between covert narcissism and obsessive hoarding of pornographic images? You've asked another question I don't know the answer to. I've heard of this hoarding thing enough times. Not everybody does it. Not every narcissist does this. Sometimes, like, we can feel like our narcissist experience is the prototype for all narcissistic experience. It really isn't. Narcissism occurs across a really wide range of behaviors. But no, I have heard of the obsessive hoarding of pornographic images. I also heard of the obsessive hoarding of images of profile pictures from Facebook. That's pretty creepy. My ex-narcissist would only look at posing pictures, never videos or pictures with other people, and had tens of thousands of pictures. He claimed to be a feminist. I the feminism thing. My ex would only look at posing pictures, never videos or pictures with other people, and he had tens of thousands of pictures. I don't know why. I don't know why. I don't know why hoarding. I don't know why you need to keep that. Why you would need to hold on to that. Maybe, you know, trophies. Maybe, I don't know. Why posing pictures? It depends on like. I'm going to play armchair psychotherapist for a second. It depends on what his sexual fantasy is, and at this point in our communication system, without knowing the password, you can't unlock this. And the password is, well, what's he thinking about when he's looking at those pictures? We're now moving into the analysis of sexual fantasies, which is, you know, it's interesting, but it's not really my sort of thing. You know, that's where I would go if he was a coaching client. If you were a coaching client, I would say, well, okay, we need to know what's special about a posing picture. What is it? Why does it need to be a posing picture, not a video of anything else? Not a like all the different things it could be. Why someone posing? What does he get from that? But without knowing what that means to him at the level of it, his internal representation, like his brain is creating a complex equivalent between, you know, he has a fetish for blue buckets. Ooh, blue buckets. Ooh, they're just so blue, buckety. But in the brain of somebody who is sexually attracted to cars, to animals, to objects, there is a complex equivalent, a connection, a neural connection that's been made between blue bucket and huge amounts of sexual libidinous energy. Like, this is the hottest thing possible. So yeah, but it's that, like, what happens between here and here that makes this. That's called a complex equivalent. Blue bucket equals total sexiness. Girl posing in a picture equals total sexiness. What's the interpretive thing that his brain is going through that's causing the sexual excitement about that? Why? Without knowing what his fancy is, I really don't know. The hoarding thing I've heard of before. I don't know what that is. I'd need to ask somebody who knows more than me about the subject. But yes, it's a thing for some cluster B personalities. But I don't know. Yeah, I really don't know. I really don't know why. Unless I just had a thought. You know, I said about the Facebook images, like that's without their consent. So maybe there's a taboo break there. These posing pictures, I don't know how he got them, but it might be without the consent of the person posing. So I'll finish on this actually. There is a strong need in male and female narcissists to break boundaries. And this is going to be my final point. I'm not going to take any more questions, guys, but thank you for asking them, and thanks for taking the time to write to me. You asked some really good, thought-provoking questions that made me stretch my brain a bit. Boundary breaks for the cluster B. So two things. A male or a female narcissist, a male or a female cluster B, thrives on the reactions of other people. So they must break boundaries. Two reasons why. This is all my theory. No scientific research backs this up, but I think it has legs. Hear me out. One, they're addicts. What are they addicted to? Well, they're kind of like adrenophiles. They're kind of like adrenaline junkies. There is a adrenal thrill they get from exerting their power over somebody else and of breaking that person's boundary, of doing something that's not really socially acceptable and that's not okay. And that is the thing that they're actually addicted to. So when we say narcissists are addicts, it's not a convenient metaphor. We're saying they're literally biologically addicted to their own endogenous or exogenous? Endogenous drugs, the drugs their body is producing, spike of adrenaline, which is why they can be such cocks in the pursuit of that drug, because they're just a junkie scrabbling for heroin. It's like, get out of the way. I need to feel, so I need to, there's the adrenaline, in it goes, I feel good again. So that's one boundary break. The second boundary break, the second reason why I think they feel the need to break boundaries is because I think fundamentally this is an infantile disorder. Some people, I think, have even suggested just calling it a variation of infantile personality disorder. So its root is in infancy, and it actually reflects a very infantile, childish, temper tantrumy, spoiled, me focused, I want all the toys view of the world. There are some troubled children, teens that I've worked with where I could see them being abusive to me, to the system, being rude, being boundary breaking, being reaction seeking, being arseholes, basically, to see where the boundary was so that they could have a boundary. Now, you might think I'm some crazy hippie liberal pagan who just thinks the world is made of magic, unicorn fluff, and love. And you'd be right, I am. And the rest is illusion. But I genuinely think that in a lot of cases, so let's stick with the kids. The kids are craving, all unconscious, they're craving structure, they're craving a paternal figure at the most primal, primitive, mammalian level. They want this, and this is why I think religions get formed, especially the Abrahamic religions. Isn't daddy like a really cross and strict daddy? Well, he's kind of a granddaddy, really. But the Abrahamic religions, you got a violent, demanding, jealous, rageful, very assertive daddy figure. And I'm saying that that, to me, represents evidence that we just crave it. And if it's not there, we make it up. And the daddy figure is there to give boundaries, to say, no, don't go over there, you'll die. So the lion's cuff of the cub, as the cub moves into the river that could be eaten by the crocodile, and the lion goes, no. That cuffing, even though it hurts, it does no damage, it's protection, it's protective. So there's something between being punishment as a form of attention, it's kind of masochistic, and daddy telling me no, meaning, I drew this picture with my hands before of a complex equivalent between a thing and another thing. Well, daddy tells me no, that means love. Daddy tells me no, that means somebody cares. That means there's some safety somewhere. So there is a kind of thrashing around to find the boundaries, to find the walls. When you don't know where the light switch is, and you're in the dark, you do this with your hand. Well, you don't do this, that would be foolish. But you kind of search around and move, and you look, and you find the light switch by bumping into that which is not the light switch first. And you go, oh, my hand is there. It must be down here. There's the light switch. So the boundary breaks of the narcissist, I think, are those two things. One is the addiction to the adrenaline of breaking other people's boundaries and just being a bit of a prick in a unique way that nobody else can, which is why you often get this really odd feeling, like the narcissist or the narcissistic, maybe the more histrionic, more infantile, thinks they've done something that is just so clever and special, and you could totally never think of that. And it looks like an adolescent who thinks they're the first person who discovered drinking, smoking, drugs, music, like they are, or sex. And they're like, no, this is my thing. And because you're old, you don't understand this thing. It's like, it's been around for a long time, kid. My grandparents were doing all that stuff. You know, you didn't just. So there's kind of like an infantile element to that sort of sense of pride and cleverness. So that's why the boundary break manifests: the addiction to breaking boundaries, and also, I think, a seeking for an edge, a wall, something to push off against. So I know, okay, no more. It could even give you a reason as to why some people with strong narcissistic tendencies frequently get caught. self-destructively. They want to get caught. I think that's the primal, primitive, infantile drive for daddy to see me. Even if daddy's going to be really angry and give me a beating, at least he sees me, and it's something like love. It's better than being ignored and abandoned. It's better than. And that even though that's not a father, that's a whole society. It could be the police. It could be a judicial system that takes them and says, well, you're not going to fucking do that again, now go to jail. But these are unconscious drives. They're not rational. They're not logical drives. They're completely illogical, emotional, neurotic drives. I'll finish on that one. That's nobody asked me about paraphilia, really. But anything that could be seen as being a boundary break in terms of bizarre sexual behavior could also feed into that. Could be all about boundary breaking stuff, being addicted to it and needing to break boundaries in order for somebody to come along and tell them you shouldn't break that boundary. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much for your time and your attention. I hope you enjoyed that one. We'll do this again on the same subject. There's some other material I'd like to go through with you, and it will be in the not too distant future. If you haven't already joined the Spartan Life Coach mailing list, please go over to spartanlifecoach.com now and join it. And I'll mail you when we do these Google Hangouts. You can also join me on Facebook. If you just do in the search bar on Facebook, look up Spartan Life Coach. There's a Facebook site there. My email, coach@spartanlifecoach.com, is being faded out. I'm not using it as much these days. If you want to contact me, then use the contact form on the website. Please follow the rules that are provided there for you. It's now helpdesk@spartanlifecoach.info. Those emails aren't read by me directly. They're filtered by a third party for the time being, because I was getting all kinds of problems with people sending me odd emails. I had my email account hacked a few times, and I've had my YouTube hacked a few times as well, which is all part of the fun of the fair. If any of you get the chance, could you do me a favor? I'm trying to clean up my name on Google, and I got into some arguments with people in the martial arts world where I used to live and I used to work years ago. And my name, Richard Grannon, keeps on coming up with these horrid search results. If you could have a Tumblr account or a Flickr account or Twitter or something, if you could just put my name in there and say something nice, like Richard Grannon has a nice forehead and I like forehead, something, anything. It's not, that's not the stuff that's out there right now. It's a real shame. I can't stop them from doing it. I've asked for people to take down stuff that's from 8 years ago and from beef in the martial arts world from 8, 9, 10 years ago, and they have refused. So if you could help me in that way, that would be really, really cool if you get the chance. Okay, boys and girls, thank you very much for your time and your attention, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Cheers.